Gigantic AD carry changes are about to shake up the entire meta. Let's get right into each one. Alright, galeforce. Honestly, it seems like a very underwhelming mythic to run. I can only see AD carries running this if they really need to dash as an immobile AD carry. Let's say you're against like an Akali or any champ that can really run you down. So having the dash plus the extra movement speed would help you survive there all in. Every other mythic boosts an AD carry's DPS by so much, while galeforce doesn't really do anything for you. It's more of like a defensive spec. But also, it's important to realize that positioning as an AD carry is key. So using this as a get out of jail free card, when you could have just positioned yourself better, waited a little bit for the skills that can kill you to go off cooldown, and then go in, is a much more valuable skill to have than to just rely on galeforce. I know the cloudburst active seems attractive, but if you compare it to the extra damage you get from IE or Navori, it pales in comparison. Honestly, I would like to see the mythic passive be granting all other legendary items 5 movement speed instead of 5 AD to kind of fulfill its niche more. Good champs that can utilize galeforce are Jhin, Twitch, and Jinx, because the active synergizes really well with what they each want to do. Jinx wants kills for her passive, Jhin, galeforce plus 4th shot execute damage is a classic, and Twitch for running down people when he comes out of stealth with his R to kill squishies. An item that I think is super underlooked but super powerful is statikk shiv. The fact that it hits 6 to 12 targets means that if you buy this item, your wave clear is going to be so much faster than the other AD carry. When your wave clear is faster than the other team, that means you get to rotate faster to team fights. Be there first to anything before the other team. You can clear and set up vision at objectives, and then they have to walk into you. The tempo that this item gives is actually crazy, and I can see statikk shiv being meta for a long time. Good champs that can utilize this are Zeri, Caitlyn, and Jinx, because they all utilize each stat of statikk shiv really well. Infinity Edge. Honestly, I expected the mythic passive to be related to crit damage, like 5% more crit damage. It seems weird that it isn't that, but whatever. By far the most consistent AD you can get for your buck. The fact that this is a mythic is actually crazy, because it'll force so much diversity in terms of the items you'll get later on in the game, because every single AD carry, besides the on-hit, would get Infinity Edge at some point in the game. But now it's like, okay, we're going to break up every AD carry and corral them into certain mythics, and now the theory crafting is wide open because there's so many items for different situations. So good champs that can utilize IE are Jhin, Caitlyn, Graven, Aphelios, Misfortune, Tristana, Samira, Jinx. Basically anyone with high AD ratios that really thrive off a crit, this item is mandatory. By far the craziest item that got changed with this new patch is guinsoo's. With this one item, I think on-hit AD carries are just going to be head and shoulders above the rest of the others. Varus, Kog'Maw, Kai'Sa, Vayne, they're all going to be eating so good. The mythic passive synergizes so well with them because all of their abilities do AP damage. Every line of this item is something that those champions thrive off of. This item is actually meta defining. Expect enchanters to be back in pro play, and for engaged supports to take a backseat. Expect Lulu to be pick ban almost every single game. Expect on-hit items to be in the forefront. Witsend and Nashor's too. They just both synergize so well with this item. So not only does this shape the bot lane meta, AP mages mid also get weaker because Witsend is going to be more popular. Other champions that don't go bot lane might become meta as well. Kayle top lane, Akshan mid. New Guinsoo's is actually the craziest item of the season. I'm excited to see what the meta will be like months after this item comes out. Shieldbow, demoted to legendary item, rest in peace. Remove the attack speed but gives it back to you conditionally when you're below 30% health. Now this is a really weird item to me because you think to yourself, I'm already really squishy, why would I want the passive to proc? So to me, this item goes down to extremely dependent tier for me because you're never getting the attack speed bonus unless you're close to dying. It has less AD and way less lifesteal than bloodthirster, but bloodthirster rewards you for being healthy. This item is rewarding you for almost dying. The only time I would build this item is if their mid lane assassin went like 3-0 in the first 10 minutes of the game. Good champs that can utilize this are champs that don't really need attack speed. So Misfortune, Jhin, Zeri, and Draven. Navori quickblades, upgraded the mythic from legendary. Not much really changed with this item, but now it gives other legendary items 5 ability haste. Actually pretty significant with AD carries that utilize ability haste very well. So the most obvious champions that come to mind that would pretty much only run this item are Ezreal, Sivir, Xayah, and Lucian. Now, Ezreal can reach the threshold where when he Qs once, it'll instantly come back up way faster. Any champion that makes great use of spamming abilities will love this item. It's pretty situational on champs like Zeri. Yes, they can utilize Transcendence very well, but I can see them only running it over IE when you're expecting to get more value out of multiple dashes / abilities in a singular team fight. Oftentimes, bursting down one champion with IE to instantly make it a 4v5 is more efficient than drawn out teamfights, so this item is very dependent. Trinity Force. Okay, so this is kind of a crazy item because there are so many AD carries that can use this item well, but it just seems like the worst option compared to the other mythic. Vayne can use every stat extremely well, but guinsoo's is just better. This seems like a really good item for Sivir, but navori is just better. Kog'Maw seems like the perfect champion for this, but guinsoo's exist. The only champion I can see where this item would be better than its counterpart is Ezreal. If you're picking Ezreal and the enemy team comp is comprised of tanks or bruisers, I would honestly go Trinity Force over Navori, because you can weave your auto attacks in between your Qs without being in danger of dying. This would probably do more DPS than the Essence Navori counterpart. So good champs that can utilize Triforce are Zeri, Kog'Maw, Vayne, Ezreal, and Lucian. Basically any champ that has low mana cost abilities that can utilize Spellblade well would do well with Trinity Force too. Bloodthirster. You don't get a decaying shield anymore. It's not a defense item, but it's now an offensive item. Now you get AD if you're healthy. This item is actually insane because the second you buy it, it is already the most AD you can get out of an item in the game. Not only that, but it has a massive amount of lifesteal, so you can trade aggressively and just heal back up on the minion. So champions that have extremely high AD ratios, who wanna all in, who wanna trade, are gonna love this item. So what champion comes to mind when I say those words? That's right, this is a Draven item. I can see Draven straight up rushing this first every single game. It has everything Draven wants. Other good champs that can utilize this are Caitlyn, MF, and Jhin. So anyone who has high AD ratios and doesn't normally get into the fray and risk their health will also utilize the passive pretty well. The Collector, probably the most infamous item ever made. I've seen hundreds of debates on whether this item is good. All that's changed about this item is that it has 6 more lethality, so it packs even a bigger punch when you're snowballing. So this might sound crazy, but I think this item is pretty good as a first item rush. Now hear me out. Early game is when most of the fights are happening. You're grouping around first dragon, you're grouping for herald, you're getting 4-man dove, you're doing the 4-man diving. Most of the action is going to happen early to mid game, so the Collector passive is going to get a lot of value. Good champions that I can see utilize this are Samira, Raven, Misfortune, Twitch, and Caitlyn. Collector has a decent amount of AD, each champion uses lethality extremely well and can snowball out of control. Phantom Dancer. This item is crazy because it gives you the most attack speed out of any of the AD carry items. It gives you a whopping 60% attack speed if you proc its passive. That's more than if you bought like Kraken Slayer and Static Shiv together. Plus, you get 14% movement speed. And if you've watched my stream, you know how much I think movement speed is the most broken stat in the game. You don't have to build defense items if you're just faster than their skill shots can hit you. The only drawback is that this gives you next to no AD. The champions that have high AD ratios don't really want to build this. The best champs that can utilize this are champs with built-in on-hit abilities and want to kite. So Kog'Maw, Vayne, Kai'Sa, Kalista can all use this very efficiently. Stormrazor. They removed the slow on that item and replaced it with 45% movement speed. On one hand, that's really good for chasing people down. On the other hand, it doesn't let your team follow up. Whereas when you had the slow, it was amazing for picking people off and letting your team catch up. I can see some crazy Energizer builds where you try to stack all of the Energizer items together, but to me, it honestly doesn't seem that good. You can only proc it like twice in a team fight. So I would get it if you're playing more of a pick comp, where you push your lane really fast with Static Shiv, and then roam with your pick jungler to get picks, and then the extra movement speed helps with running down the picked off guy. The good champs I can see utilize this item are Ashe, Jhin, Jinx, Twitch, Aphelios, Kog'Maw, and Caitlyn. Kraken Slayer. Demoted to legendary item, now it doesn't even deal true damage anymore. It's going to get mitigated so much more by MR, but it'll still get value in long extended teamfights more so than other items. I can see Kraken Slayer competing with Runon's Hurricane for a slot, so if they don't have that much of a frontline, I would get Kraken over Runon's, and especially if you're more of an attack speed character, so you can get more procs off in a team fight. Good champions that can utilize this are Jinx, Twitch, Kog'Maw, Tristana, Sivir, Misfortune, Kai'Sa, Ezreal, Ashe, Caitlyn, and Aphelios. Guys, this AD carry change is going to shake up the entire meta. I'm excited to see what'll happen.